Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have quite a bit to get into in the world of Southern California sports, such as USC men's hoops, pulling out a huge victory over No.8 UCLA. And speaking of which, what has gone on with the Bruins? They've lost 2 in a row after losing to Arizona. Should we be concerned about the Bruins? Or is this just a little bit of a phase? Also, UC Santa Barbara men's hoops is all alone in first place after their narrow win over Hawaii. And how about Cal State Fullerton pulling out a big win over UC Irvine? Tusks up. And the Clippers are starting to find their way back as well, as they've won 4 in a row, which included beating the Lakers, who actually have been winning a good amount of games. It's just that the Clippers kind of slapped them back to reality. Also, we have all things Southern California sports, as it has been the 3 years of Kobe Bryant passing away, and we say happy birthday to a Laker legend. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday evening, Friday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way into episode 121 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform. You can follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at IE Sports Radio. We are also available on Facebook, IE Sports Radio. You just got to type those words into the search bar, and then poof, you just got to follow us, and then you're golden. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go at the top, you will see a Patreon link, and once you click it and start donating, the donations will start off at $5 a month. This will get you a shout-out from all of our shows, including this one, and higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of IE Sports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment with Larry B. Because for the past 8 years and counting, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've been continuing to be by the fans and for the fans. With your help, we are ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you, everyone, for all that you do and all of your support, and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Key to the Gate, Marcus Losgreat, and a donor that wishes to remain anonymous. With all that said and done, let us begin. So since there was no NFL in terms of SoCal, we'll save that news for later. Right now, we have to go over USC's men's basketball team defeating UCLA as the Trojans pulled out the win. They pulled out a 77-64 win last night at the Galen Center. As we welcome Davidson Crooks in the chat room, he pops in and he says, "What's good?" Appreciate you tuning in, Davidson. So for USC, this was kind of an interesting game. So USC actually trailed by 12, and I was thinking, okay, well, it's probably going to be another case of USC had a horrible first half. They're having to play catch-up, and then they're going to probably fall 1 or 2 points short of the Bruins. That actually was not the case, as USC actually turned it around. And they turned it around a whole lot in that second half, as they put up 25 points in the first half, but in the second half, they put up not 10, not 20, not 30, not 40, not 50, but 52 points in the second half. I'm just at a loss for words. I was just speechless. It's like, where did this USC team come from? And I think this was the USC team that everyone and their mothers was looking at early on in the season. I really thought that USC made great adjustments, and normally they're not the greatest second-half team. And as we saw in the previous meeting, where USC fell behind by as many as 18, and they just didn't do great overall offensively, they were able to do better the second time around. And I don't know if it's playing at Galen Center that just gave them that boost or something along those lines, but they really performed well. Now, UCLA kind of... their defense, I don't know what happened with them. And Mick Cronin was not utilizing his timeouts all that well. He only had one timeout going into the last 6 minutes and 39 seconds of a game, or something along those lines. You just can't do that. And I don't know what Mick Cronin did or didn't do in terms of trying to make adjustments, but I don't think they were ready for USC in that second half. Now, a credit goes to USC. Okay, well, I shouldn't say they. They've been getting slandered on Twitter when it comes to missing free throws. Like, if I had a dime for every time a USC fan or US or a sports fan or any sort of person said, make your free throws or please make your free throws, I would be a millionaire. Or I think USC could have a chance. USC would have enough money to open 2 Galen Centers. But USC had been hideous prior to last Saturday when it came to the charity stripe. But this time around, last night they went 17 for 18 from the foul line. Now that is a drastic improvement. And they also went a perfect 14 for 14 in their previous game against Arizona State. And they even trolled all of the USC fans saying, look guys, we took your advice. We helped make all of our free throws. Which I think is good, just because if USC wants to be a deep NCAA tournament team, or they want to somehow win the Pac-12 tournament or be the number 1 seed or win the regular season title, which is technically the same thing, then they're going to have to make their free throws. They're going to have to eliminate their mistakes. They only made 9 turnovers compared to UCLA's 13. The only thing that they didn't really get done was rebounding, but that's quite all right. They out-rebounded them in terms of defensive rebounds, but offensive rebounds, it just looked like UCLA was more dominant in that category. But for USC, they were better in practically every other category. And they nearly shot 50% from the field, which is absolutely amazing. Like, that's the offensive output USC needs every single night if they want to prove themselves. If they can do that, which is probably going to be tough, but if they could do that, they're a team that no one wants to play come NCAA tournament time. And there's a reason why Andy Enfield, I think, got an extension last year. Now, obviously, it's just one. Okay, well, for UCLA, it's just one bad game, or it's 2 bad games, actually, as the Bruins lost to Arizona. I want to say it was by 5. Now, the loss to Arizona isn't as concerning, just because Arizona is a good team. Arizona, I think, was going to be the big test for UCLA. And I think UCLA playing on the road, it didn't help them. And obviously, playing on the road yet again to USC didn't help them as well. But against USC, they were up 12 at halftime, but then lost by 13. Like, they have to make the adjustments in terms of adapting to its opponent. I feel this kind of reminded me of their NCAA tournament game against North Carolina. So, in that regard, UCLA was up at halftime, and then they just let up in the second half. But North Carolina was extremely good last year. USC this year has been night and day. Sometimes they've had themselves big wins, and then sometimes they have had themselves not so great wins. Like, take, for example, the Washington State loss. I'm sorry, not so great losses, such as the Washington State loss. But this win over UCLA is definitely their best win overall this season. I think it even surpasses the Auburn win, and the Auburn win was kind of a nail-biter. This one in the second half against UCLA was just absolutely amazing. And I think USC was kind of right there when it came to getting that extreme breakout win in the Pac-12. And you got to remember the previous time, USC only lost by, 1 point the previous time? It was they lost by 2 points. And USC even had the lead after trailing by as many as 18. And then the fact that they nearly won that one I wouldn't say it kind of impressed me, but it kind of gave me some promise. And it kind of made me say, well, USC just has to learn to not fall behind by 18. And they fell behind by 12 in the first half, but the fact that they turned it around with some great shooting, and they did really well at the free throw line, and just an overall just great team win, I think they really showed that they can hang with anybody. And they only held UCLA to 27 points. Granted, that's not a whole lot, but I still think that's quite incredible just because the fact that they put up 52 points is so amazing. And Boogie Ellis, Boogie Ellis, he finally came to play big time. He had 31 points, 9 for 17 from the field, and he was a perfect 10 for 10 from the charity stripe. And he chipped in 6 assists. So that was a plus right there. Drew Peterson added 16 points. Kobe Johnson chipped in 10 points. Those were kind of their big-time players right there. As for UCLA, they were led by Jaime Jaquez, who had 15 points, 8 boards. David Singleton and Tiger Campbell both had 14 points. And then off the bench, Amari Bailey, a freshman out of Chicago, he had 11 points. So for UCLA, should we be concerned about the Bruins? They're still atop the Pac-12, yes, but that lead is now dwindling down as they're only up by a whopping 1 game above Arizona and USC. So USC is still in prime position to win that regular season conference. Heck, even Arizona State and Oregon might have a chance. But we're not going to look that far away. But for UCLA, I just think that this loss could have been avoided. I think they definitely did not play their best game, especially in that second half. How do you give up 52 points in the second half to your little brother who isn't even ranked? Now, again, USC deserves a lot of credit because early on they were proved to be on the bubble of being ranked, and then they had a few losses to Florida Gulf Coast and a few other ranked teams, and they had the Washington State loss, then they lost to UCLA by 2, then they lost to Arizona last Thursday, which that's not too bad of a loss because they had their moments up in the game. It's just that they could not withstand Arizona. So as for UCLA and USC, the two are off on Saturday as they'll prepare for their little homestand against the Washington schools. So UCLA plays Washington on Thursday and Washington State on next Saturday, while USC is vice versa. They've got Washington State next Thursday and Washington on next Saturday. So for USC, I'm hoping they learned their mistakes from their mistakes against Washington State, just because Washington State is 9-13, but they also took UCLA to the brink. So for USC's sake, I hope they use this win as a little bit of a bungee to possibly continue to go forward and continue to do great things, just because they do have the potential. It's just that they just can't play down to their competition, and they can't just make so many silly mistakes or just have scoring droughts or play from behind. That's just not a recipe for success. And that's for the rest of the Pac-12. Utah's only a half game behind UCLA. Arizona is, like I said, they and USC are 1 game behind them, but Arizona has the tiebreaker over USC. And Arizona State and Oregon are also in the thick of it in terms of winning the Pac-12 championship. For UCLA, their biggest test is going to be their final regular season game where they play Arizona at Pauley Pavilion. That's going to be their biggest test right there. But as for some other tests, I could see them possibly grinding it out in terms of pulling out the win. I could see them maybe, I wouldn't say struggling, but I could see them going down to the wire against Utah. Oregon has been up and down. Arizona State gave them a tough battle, even though UCLA won that by double digits. And then obviously Arizona is going to be their little is basically their true test in terms of the Pac-12. But as for USC, like I said, they've got the Washington schools, and then following that, they head up to Oregon to take on the Oregon schools the following week. The Oregon one, I think, is a tricky matchup. Can USC win at Matthew Knight Arena? That is kind of my biggest question for them. Can they continue to build off this? And can they beat Oregon State and not have to go down to the wire? Can they continue their consistency over some of these other good Pac-12 schools? That still remains to be seen. But for USC, I think this is a huge win for them. I think going forward, they just have to... Obviously, they're not going to play like this every single night. They're not going to shoot near 50% from the field. They're not going to shoot 17 from 18 from the charity stripe or anything of that sort. But they can learn from this, and they can learn to just clean up their mistakes, because USC can be a potentially good team. It's just that they have to learn to not fall behind early in the game, because they didn't get away with this against UCLA, who was coming off of a loss to Arizona. But against other teams that are really good outside of the Pac-12, they're going to need to clean that up as well. I still think USC gets into the NCAA tournament. I mean, it's a little early to say, but I think USC does look like a tournament team. I really think they do. So this Saturday, they'll probably just get a chance to watch film, lick their wounds, and rest up for when they play the Washington schools, because they obviously have some unfinished business to attend to when it comes to facing Washington State, because I think they could have won that game. It's just that they had a bad dry spell, and I guess playing on the road just did not bode well for them. I mean, they took out Washington the previous night, the first go around, but the second time around, the second matchup against Washington State, or the first match against Washington State, just did not go their way. So we'll see what happens with USC going forward. All right, that's enough about USC and UCLA. So let's jump to the West Coast Conference. So it's still been tough times for Pepperdine, as I want to say they have not won a conference game. They still have not won a conference game, as San Diego got the better of them 87-78. Poor Pepperdine. But LMU continues to win following their big win over Gonzaga last week, as they beat Portland 79-60. LMU is back at it Saturday when they host the PCH Cup against Pepperdine. Long story short for LMU, as long as they don't play down to their competition, this matchup against Pepperdine is going to be fresh meat for them. They do have to play BYU, and they play St. Mary's, and they've got Gonzaga again. But this time it'll be at SoCal. And then they've also got Santa Clara, which is drastically improved. San Diego could be a little bit of a trap game. Pacific is... yeah, they're in the middle of the pack. But I wouldn't call them bad. So, for now, LMU, they're in third place in the West Coast Conference. They're still 2.5 back of St. Mary's, and they're still 1.5 back of Gonzaga. So, I still think LMU, if they play their cards right, I think they maybe, hence the word maybe, can get into the NCAA tournament. I'm trying to look at their entirety of their schedule, and I'm trying to look at what games are standout wins, and I don't really see too much outside of the Gonzaga win. Outside of the Gonzaga win, I don't see too many standout-ish wins. And maybe BYU, because St. Mary's really laid down the wood against LMU the first go-around at St. Mary's. But this time, LMU has a majority of their games at home outside of BYU and San Diego and Santa Clara and Pepperdine, which Pepperdine and San Diego, that's still technically in SoCal, so they don't have to go too far. So we'll see what happens with LMU, but right now, definitely keep an eye on those Lions. You don't want to sleep on them. So jumping on over to the Big West. Oh my goodness, the Big West. More like big time, as we had quite the crazy night last night. As let's start off with Cal State Fullerton. Cal State Fullerton hasn't really had the greatest season. The reigning Big West tournament champions from last year, has seen better days, but last night might have been their biggest win of the season as they took down UC Irvine 62-61. They got a go-ahead three-pointer from Ratrell Wrightsell with about 3 seconds remaining, and that dude was just cold-blooded. And I hate to say this for UC Irvine, but missing that free throw in a one-on-one situation was the worst thing that could happen to them. As a matter of fact, UC Irvine only missed 3 free throws the entirety of the night, but that free throw that they missed was the big-time worst of the worst. It came at the worst time, as, believe it or not, UC Irvine shot nearly 46% from the field, while Fullerton only shot 35-ish% from the field. But they did make 8 threes compared to UCI's 6 threes. So how bad is that loss for UC Irvine? I mean, it's not a bad loss, but now that kicks UC Irvine out of first place, as going over to this little matchup, UC Santa Barbara narrowly escaped with a 65-64 win on the road against Hawaii. And that's a huge win for the Gauchos, as A.J. Mitchell led the way with 24 points as well as 3 assists. That's a big-time win because UC Santa Barbara still remains atop of the Big West Conference standings. I think that's huge for the Gauchos, as right behind them is UC Riverside, who is the only team to hand UC Santa Barbara their only loss in Big West Conference play. As for Riverside, they lost a tough one last Saturday against Hawaii, 67-63, and most of their games have been quite down to the road. As last Thursday they beat UC Davis 74-72. They beat Cal Poly in overtime on Martin Luther King Day, 83-78. That win over UC Santa Barbara was won 65-64. They barely beat UC San Diego 74-68. And then Fullerton, that one was kind of their ugly loss. They lost that one by 15. Oof. It just goes to show that you just can't underestimate anybody in this Big West Conference. Because right now, it looks like UCSB, UC Riverside, and UC Irvine are the favorites to be the regular season champion. And if you are the regular season champion of the Big West Conference, then you automatically qualify for the NIT. Now, obviously, the NIT is not the goal for any team. The goal is to make the NCAA tournament and to win the whole kit and caboodle, the big shebang, the big enchilada, the whole NCAA national championship. But for UC Santa Barbara, they look kind of promising. I remember a couple seasons ago, they nearly upset Creighton. The Gauchos were the 12 seed, Creighton was the 5 seed, but unfortunately for Santa Barbara, they just fell just short, which made me sad face. But hey, that's still pretty good. Now we got some not so good news coming out of the Big West Conference, and this actually comes from my alma mater, Long Beach State. And oh my goodness, this kind of makes me sad having to bring this news up. And I want to say this was announced on Thursday, if not Wednesday. It was actually announced on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. As their top leading scorer, Joel Murray, he suffered a wrist injury, that's going to require season-ending surgery, and he's going to miss the remainder of the 2022-2023 season, which that's their team's leading scorer, so that's very tough for Long Beach State. And keep in mind, Long Beach State is the reigning regular season Big West Conference champion. As Murray, like I said, their leading scorer, here's how crucial he was. He was an all-NABC, all-district selection, and a first-team all-Big West pick from a year ago. So that's how tough that loss is for the Gauchos. Not the Gauchos, the Beach. And I'm wishing nothing but the best for Joel Murray. I hope he is able to make a speedy recovery, and who knows? I hope he can make it to the NBA. Like, that would be awesome if he made it to the NBA, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. And poor guy. So I wish you the best, Joel Murray, and here's hoping you knock this surgery out and you come back 100% stronger. And who knows, maybe we'll see you in the NBA. So that's kind of that for that little sad news right there. I hated to bring that up, but it's kind of the news that I have to bring up just because Long Beach State, of all the teams, they're actually the fourth best SoCal team from the Big West Conference. They're just ahead of Cal State Fullerton. Hence the word just ahead of Cal State Fullerton. They're still quite the distance back from the Gauchos, the Highlanders, and the Anteaters. UCI is 1.5 games behind the Gauchos, whereas, like I said, UC Riverside is only 1 game behind the Gauchos. And then you can't count out Hawaii or UC Davis. They're 2 games back of UC SB. So we'll see what happens. But the big thing that truly matters in the Big West is the conference tournament. The conference tournament is what truly matters, just because if you can win that, you're automatically qualifying for the NCAA tournament. That's kind of the harsh lesson that Long Beach State learned last season when they won the regular season title, and some fans were clamoring and saying the Beach should have gotten it, should get into the tournament or something like that. But life is sometimes not fair, and NCAA or conference tournaments aren't fair. But at least Long Beach State did get a postseason, despite it being in the NIT. Seeing the Beach lose to Fullerton last year was kind of icky, just because that's my brother's alma mater, and my alma mater is Long Beach State, so it is what it is. But I think that's enough for Big West Conference men's hoops right there. I think the Big West Conference is becoming quite the barn burner, and it should probably be a fun little finish to the regular season. So that is that for that little conference right there. I want to jump on into some Mountain West Conference action, just because I don't really show San Diego State a whole lot of love, and they deserve some love. They deserve some love and appreciation, just because, well, they're San Diego State, and they're awesome. They're also SoCal, and they just beat Utah State on Wednesday, 85-75, and they beat Air Force 70-60. So good pair of 10-point wins right there for the Aztecs, as they are all alone in first place in the Mountain West Conference. Unfortunately, they are not ranked, as this doesn't make sense. New Mexico is ranked, but not San Diego State. I understand San Diego State lost to New Mexico State while they were ranked. But now that we saw New Mexico State losing, as they lost in double overtime to Nevada, and they just narrowly squeaked out a win over Boise State, I think that's going to change. Especially since New Mexico is 2 games back of San Diego State in the Mountain West Conference. So this Saturday, San Diego State will be hosting San Jose State at 6 p.m. Then on Tuesday, San Diego State will be hitting the road to Nevada to take on those Nevada Wildcats, or Bearcats, or Wolfpack, I'm sorry, the Nevada Wolfpack. And then they've got Boise State next Friday, which should be fun. And I think San Diego State's schedule is starting to pick up a little. San Jose State is in the middle, but Nevada is right on their coattails. They're tied with Boise State for second in that Mountain West Conference. And then Boise State also is right by their coattails. So for next week, this is their biggest week of biggest week of Mountain West Conference play, because they've got Nevada and they've got Boise State. If they could go 2 for 2, that takes a whole lot of pressure off of them. Just because UNLV, I feel UNLV could pose a threat despite being second to last in the conference. And then they've got other teams that could pose a threat to them as well, like Utah State, maybe Fresno State, even though they're like near the bottom. But New Mexico State is also going to be their challenge. It's going to be their prove it to us match, or prove it to us game. That is that for San Diego State. I like I said, they deserve some respect, just because the fact that they were able to pull out that win is quite incredible. And next week is a huge week. But for right now, they have to get past San Jose State. They have to get past San Jose State before looking ahead to next week. And then the last NCAA men's basketball team worth talking about is California Baptist, as they managed to win their most recent game against UT Arlington 74-66. California Baptist has now won 3 in a row after losing to Utah Valley on the 11th of January. So this Saturday, CBU hits the road to UT Rio Grande as they play them on Saturday at 4:30 p.m. And then they've got Southern Utah on Wednesday. Then next Saturday, they will host Abilene Christian. So in the standings, California Baptist is in the middle of the sandwich. But they're a close middle. They're only 2 games back of Seattle, but they're also in a little bit of a logjam with some of the other teams vying for that first place regular season crown, as they've also got, as right behind them is Southern Utah. They've got Utah Valley, Stephen F. Austin, Sam Houston State, and then Grand Canyon, and then CBU, and then everyone else is right behind CBU. So that's basically where those Lancers are at, and hopefully they are able to turn the tide, and they are able to clinch first place. Jumping over to NCAA women's basketball, so USC women's hoops, they managed to win their 2 games last week. They beat Washington State 51-44, and they narrowly escaped with a 63-54 win in overtime against Washington. So that's 2 good road wins right there. USC women's hoops is still not ranked, which makes me sad, as this week they've got a tough gauntlet this week, as tonight they will be hitting the road to the Rocky Mountains to take on Utah, number 9 Utah, and then on Sunday they head down to Boulder to take on Colorado, who is number 25. So that's 2 ranked matchups right there. If USC could at least beat Colorado, that could put them into the top 25, just because that they're proving themselves. They proved themselves against Stanford last week, and the fact that they didn't have a Stanford hangover is quite impressive, especially on the road, mind you. But USC is kind of a distant 3rd place, but also in 3rd place is Arizona, as Utah, UCLA, and Colorado are right behind Stanford, and UCLA also they managed to beat the Washington schools 51-47. They beat Washington on Friday, and then they beat Washington State 73-66, as they too will also play the Rocky Mountain schools. And that's kind of a big test for UCLA, just because that could draw them closer to Stanford. But I don't know if Stanford's going to have that type of night that they had against USC, because when USC beat them last week, or whenever that was, they were held to their lowest point total. They were god-awful from the field, and I want to say they got out-rebounded. If not, they barely out-rebounded USC. But either way, USC women's hoops, you definitely can't sleep on them. They're definitely good as advertised. So keep an eye out for those women of Troy. I think they definitely have that potential. And then I guess jumping over to some CBU women's hoops, they are 1.5 games back of Southern Utah and only 1 game back of Stephen F. Austin, as the Lancers, as I don't want to call them Lady Lancers just because I got chewed out just because I called them Lady Lancers. Stupid random people. So CBU has won 3 in a row as they defeated UT Arlington yesterday, 83-65, which is no surprise. Just because CBU they're good. They're not great, as they're 10-9, but they're starting to get better as they're adapting well into WAC play, Western Athletic Conference play. And then San Diego State women's hoops, they're actually in 2nd place as they beat Fresno State 75-56. And they, too, have won 3 in a row, as they also beat Wyoming 73-66 last Saturday. And then last Thursday, they beat New Mexico 65-61, as they're 2 games back of UNLV. Those Lady Rebels are getting it done. But San Diego State, they're still putting themselves in a good position to possibly make a deep run in the Mountain West Conference tournament. And then jumping over to West Coast Conference play in terms of NCAA women's hoops. San Diego's the best of the bunch. As San Diego, they beat Pacific yesterday 74-67. That win actually snapped a 2-game losing streak as San Diego hits the road to St. Mary's on Saturday. Like I said, San Diego is the best SoCal team from the West Coast Conference in terms of women's basketball, as they're actually in 4th place, but they're a distant 4th from the top 3, Gonzaga, Portland, and BYU. Big yikes for San Diego. And then Pepperdine and LMU in women's basketball, they're basically lumped at the bottom with Pacific, so tough time to be a Pepperdine basketball fan in general, but at least LMU has the men's hoops. And then I guess San Diego has some promise, but like I said, they're 5-5 in conference play, and they're barely over 500. Not trying to knock the Lady Toreros, but it's like you're kind of not even close to first place. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be mean or anything. But anyway, jumping over to the Big West Women's Basketball Conference, UC Irvine actually suffered its first loss yesterday. We all thought that the men's basketball team suffered a tough one. The women's basketball team lost a close one at the Bren yesterday against Cal State Fullerton, 66-64, which is a big ouch. And that was actually their second straight overtime game. Their previous overtime game following that was last Thursday's game against Hawaii, beating them 71-67. But this loss against Fullerton hurts because that is their first Big West Conference loss of the season. And what's worse is that actually opens the door for UC Santa Barbara and Long Beach State. As of all the teams in the Big West Conference in women's basketball, the Beach is the hottest team right now in terms of winning streaks, as they've won 5 in a row, which is quite nice. I think it's very promising for the Beach, and the Gauchos are right on the coattails of UCI as well. So UCI is going to have to figure something out as they play Cal State Northridge on Saturday. Don't they? Yes, they do. They play Cal State Northridge. Fortunately for them, those poor Matadors, they've lost 7 in a row. So if UC Irvine can't win that matchup, then there should be some concern for the Anteaters. Whereas the Beach, they travel to Davis to take on UC Davis. Now, Davis is in the middle of the pack, but I always find Davis to being one of the more underrated teams in the Big West Conference. I think Davis could give UC Santa Barbara, or not UC Santa Barbara, Long Beach State some fits in that conference game, especially since it's on the road. And Long Beach State just narrowly escaped against Cal Poly. Normally when Long Beach State plays Cal Poly, it always goes down to the wire, and sometimes Cal Poly is always on the close end of the winning side. But this time around, Long Beach State had a reversal of fortune, and they managed to win, as they're only a half game back of the Anteaters, which I think is incredible right there. Can't sleep on the Beach. And also you can't sleep on those Lady Gauchos, as they narrowly escaped Hawaii at the Thunderdome with a 72-69 win, as they've won 3 in a row after losing to UC Irvine 70-60 on MLK Day. So UCSB doesn't have a match or a game this weekend, as they play Cal Poly next Thursday. So they have a chance to rest up, lick their wounds, and watch some film, and keep an eye on that UC Irvine match, just because I imagine UC Irvine is going to beat Northridge. If they can't beat Northridge, that has lost 7 in a row, the Anteaters should be very concerned. But as for the Big West Women's Basketball Conference, it's getting close. Even UC San Diego has a chance to win the regular season championship. Now, I don't know if UC San Diego has been cleared to basically play in the postseason tournaments, like the Big West Conference tournament or the NCAA tournament. I imagine if they do make some sort of postseason, it'll be the NIT, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. All right, so that's going to do it for NCAA college hoops. So as I get into the NBA, I do want to take this time, as yesterday was a tough day. Yesterday marked the 3-year passing of the great Kobe Bryant, as well as his daughter Gianna, as well as 7 others. And I actually want to reflect on that day. So, where I was on when Kobe Bryant and that helicopter tragically crashed in Calabasas, I was actually at a lacrosse tournament, believe it or not, and basically, I was just minding my own business, getting news and facts down. Well, not news and facts down, but getting numbers down, and just basically covering lacrosse, club lacrosse, for the lacrosse website that I used to work for. And I got the news saying that Kobe Bryant and his daughter were suffered injuries in a helicopter crash. And I was thinking, well, there's no way. It's like, that news is fake. And at first I thought it was fake, but then I found out that it actually was true. And I was also getting news that Kobe Bryant's wife was on that helicopter, as well as his other daughters. But then it was debunked that it was just Kobe Bryant and Gianna Bryant, and then 7 others, which included the helicopter pilot. So it was just a tough time. And I also found out, so it wasn't just Kobe Bryant passing away that made me sad. It was someone else that I personally knew, John Altobelli, the former Orange Coast College baseball coach that passed away. And I knew John Altobelli personally, as I basically, back when I was at Orange Coast College, I used to cover OCC baseball. I even covered John Altobelli's 500th or 600th win. Either way, he crossed a milestone, and man, it was quite amazing. And the fact that he passed away just really, really just broke my heart. And I basically just needed a moment to myself. I just needed to just sit down and just kind of fight back the tears and just say, God, what the heck just happened? And it was just so heartbreaking seeing John Altobelli pass away. And I still have that interview with John Altobelli, surpassing 500, maybe 600 wins. Regardless, it was just a great little moment that I had with him, and I loved interviewing John Altobelli. He kept it real. He was always a straight shooter, and I liked that of him. And he also led Orange Coast to a few state titles, and man, it was just so sad to see him just pass away like that. And it wasn't just him as well. It was also obviously Gianna Bryant, and then I think it was Peyton Chester, who also, or was it Riley Chester? No, it was Peyton Chester. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. But either way, it was the little Chester of the Chester family. It was sorry, spider. Anyway, yeah, it was Peyton Chester. Riley Chester was the brother of Peyton Chester, but Peyton Chester and Sarah Chester passed away, and then also the Altobellis, not just John Altobelli, but Alyssa Altobelli, the daughter, and Carrie Altobelli, the mom, passed away. Christina Mauser also passed away. She was a coach along with Bryant's Mamba Academy. And then Ara Zobayan, the pilot for the helicopter, also passed away. So, yeah, it was just such a rough day. I just thought this was just all a nightmare that I just want to wake up from, but it wasn't. And it's sad. And the entire NBA obviously still mourned the passing of Kobe Bryant. And it's just a bad. Ever since Kobe's passing, following the bubble championship, the Lakers haven't really been the same. So it still pains me to knowing that Kobe Bryant is just no longer a part of this world anymore. And Gianna was just taken way too soon, as well as Carrie Altobelli and Peyton Chester. Like those three, the daughters, were just taken way too soon. And Kobe obviously had a life to live, not just as a dad, but as a basketball coach and everything of that sort. I remember seeing Kobe Bryant at a volleyball match when his oldest brother, or not oldest brother, his oldest sister, or his oldest daughter. I don't even remember the oldest daughter's name. I think it was like, it wasn't Gianna. I'm blanking on the oldest daughter's name, but I saw Kobe Bryant's oldest daughter play for Sage Hill volleyball, and I also saw Kobe Bryant at the game. I didn't want to introduce myself to him just because I wanted to give him that peace and solidarity just to see his daughter play, but it was great to see him at that moment, and I didn't want to take a picture just because, I respect the privacy of people. So I just wish I could have met him one time and just introduced myself. So this day obviously is a tough one, not just for Laker fans, but the families of those people, and obviously like sports fans in general, and like teammates of Kobe and good friends of Kobe. I still even remember Shaq breaking down following, what was it, like 1 or 2 days after Kobe passed away. It was just such a heartbreaking thing to see Shaq just break down. And yeah, you never really see Shaq cry just because he's normally just filled with joy on Inside the NBA and he's DJing and all that sort of thing. But to see him break down like that was just so, it just broke my heart too. And everyone was hurting. Even LeBron was hurting. And it got to the point, and I guess I should mention this, it got to the point where the Lakers and their next game against the Portland Trail Blazers was postponed due to this sort of thing. And I was just praying for the players as well as the families of the tragic helicopter crash. I was just praying that the players were just going to get like counseling to just grieve their sorrows after this. And it's never easy to lose not just a brother, but a living legend on that team. So I hope those 9 people are enjoying heaven and they're just having a great time. And we'll see you soon. May they rest in everlasting peace. And I propose a toast to them as they are gone but never forgotten. So that's that for that little topic right there. Now we got to jump on into the NBA as the Clippers and the Lakers. Well, the Clippers, they're actually doing well. Remember how last week I ripped them because there was this bad statistic where they only had like 3 or 4 wins over teams that are 500 or better, which is kind of sad. So, and they were also 23-24 at the time. But now, ever since then, the Clippers have now won 4 straight, as they beat the San Antonio Spurs last night, 138-100. That's no surprise. But on Tuesday, the Clippers defeated the Los Angeles Lakers, 133-115. On Sunday, the Clippers kind of shut Mike Smith's mouth as they beat the Mavericks, 112-98, which is a team above 500. And then they also beat the San Antonio Spurs last Friday in close fashion, 131-126, which I think is a solid win. Now, when it comes to their games going forward, they do have some tough challenges, as they now have to play on the road, starting on Saturday against the Atlanta Hawks, a team that is treading above 500 barely. Then Sunday, they have a quick turnaround as they travel to Ohio to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Tuesday, they are on the road at the United Center to take on the Chicago Bulls. And then on Thursday, they travel to the Great Cheese State to take on the Milwaukee Bucks. Then next Saturday, they play the New York Knicks, which those two are above 500 as well. So this road trip is really going to test the Clippers. And also on Monday, the 6th of February, the Clippers play the Brooklyn Nets. So this is kind of their Grammy road trip, even though I don't think it's their Grammy road trip. I just call it their winter road trip. I'm just going to call it their winter road trip. Soon the All-Star weekend will be there to take some load off of the Clippers, as the All-Star weekend will be, the All-Star break will be on, I think it's going to be on Friday the 17th of February, going all the way to the 19th of February. But until then, we can't look that far ahead, just because the Clippers have some big-time matchups right here. And this is going to really test to see if the Clippers are for real or not. I mean, they are for real, as they are 5th in the Western Conference. They're only 2 games back of the Sacramento Kings. However, of that 4-game winning streak, they only beat one team above 500. And what? They have like 5 wins over teams above 500, which is probably going to change every so often, just because the NBA is like that. So those Clippers, I'm glad they're doing well, and like I said, if they were to go 3-1, that would have been perfect. But when I saw them beat Dallas, I was like, okay, well, they can't possibly lose the next 2 against the Lakers, because the Lakers, they've had their number, and then the Spurs are just a complete train wreck. So good for the Clippers. I'm glad they are doing well. As for the Lakers, they're not doing too terrible. Last Friday, they actually impressed me, and they beat the Memphis Grizzlies 122-121. Believe it or not, that win actually marked the first win against the Grizzlies for any team this year after the Grizzlies led by 10 or more points. So basically, the Grizzlies lost their first game after leading by 10 or more points, which I think is incredible. That's because the Grizzlies are so good with Ja Morant and many others. Like, I think they also have like Zaire Williams and Steven Adams. And there was also a little bit of a brawl, which, long story short, Shannon Sharpe and Ja Morant's dad got into a heated argument, and then eventually they needed to be separated, and I think Steven Adams got in on the action as well. And eventually cooler heads prevailed, as Shannon Sharpe and Ja Morant's dad, they basically just hugged it out and apologized and said, hey, it's nothing personal, man. Or in Shannon Sharpe's case, it's nothing personal, man. I got a little hot-headed, and I didn't mean to let my emotions get the better of me, so I'm sorry, man. I just hate having to deal with Skip Bayless and whatnot, and having him ride the butt of Tom Brady and the Dallas Cowboys. I just had a seeing red moment right there, so I apologize to you. My man. No, all love, brother. That's my Shannon Sharpe impersonation. Hope y'all like it. So anyway, that win over the Grizzlies actually was a big one, as they used that momentum to defeat the Portland Trailblazers 121-112. And this was the most interesting game I've ever seen from the Lakers. Believe it or not, if I told you the Lakers gave up 45 points and got outscored 45-13 in that second quarter, and they still managed to win, I don't think anyone would believe me. I think people would check me to see if I'm talking crazy talk. But the Lakers, they did get outscored 45-13 in the second quarter, which that's basically a 32-point differential, and they were down 25 at halftime. But for the Lakers, they managed to explode for 40 points in the third quarter while holding Portland to only 20 points. And they held Portland to only 21 points in the fourth quarter while scoring 35 in the fourth quarter. And this was just such a weird game. Even Anthony Simons having a big game for Portland couldn't help them, as LeBron had 37 points, Thomas Bryant had 14 boards, and Dennis Schroeder had 8 assists, which I think is incredible, as the Lakers won 121-112. But like I said, the 2-game winning streak kind of came to an end, as the Clippers just gave the middle finger to the Lakers and said, nah, you're not winning this. The loss to the Clippers was actually historical for LeBron James, as he actually scored 46 points in that loss, and he made 9 threes as well, which I think is incredible. And fun fact about LeBron James, that 40-point game against the Clippers actually completes him scoring 40 or more points against every team in the NBA. He's at least dropped 40 or more points against a team in the NBA, including his old team, the Cavs, the Heat, the Lakers, everything of that sort. So it's incredible that LeBron James is making history at these types of at his age, and also the fact that he is still chasing Kareem. He's inching closer and closer to Kareem. It's still quite incredible. So I think for for NBA fans, we should enjoy LeBron James for as much as we can, because it is going to suck when he does retire. And I don't think he's better than MJ. I obviously think MJ is MJ. But for LeBron, I think he's a once-in-a-lifetime generation talent. And honestly, it's going to suck when he retires. So, Lakers got to cherish him for as long as they can before he possibly goes to another team and wins a championship. So as for the Lakers this week, they will be hitting the road to Beantown to take on the Boston Celtics on Saturday. Important game right there. I don't care about every other game. Lakers got to win that one. If the Lakers don't win that one, I will be sad to an extent. And the Celtics are kind of showing their cracks. I mean, granted, they are the best team in the NBA, and they are the top team in the Eastern Conference, but they have shown some cracks in their season, as they lost to the Knicks in overtime yesterday, 120-117. They also lost to the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic. Well, Tuesday they lost to them 98-95, but the Magic just beat them 113-98. Big woof right there. So the Lakers are kind of catching the Celtics in a little bit of a slump. And the best part for the Lakers, well, before I go into that matchup, they beat the San Antonio Spurs on Wednesday, 113-104. The best part about the Lakers is that they got Anthony Davis back, and I think that's huge. Now, I imagine Anthony Davis is going to have a minutes restriction just because the dude just came back from injury, and he just came off the bench. But he did lead the Lakers in the victory with 21 points, though he shot a little under 50%. But, again, off the bench, and he also had a double-double with 12 boards. That's incredible. I think that's quite amazing. And then LeBron obviously had 20 points and 11 assists and 9 boards. I say obviously like this was supposed to happen, but he put up his numbers just because he's LeBron James. So like I said, the Lakers play the Celtics on Saturday. Then on Monday, they will travel to Brooklyn to take on the Nets. Then Tuesday, they have the second of their New York two-step as they play the Knicks on Tuesday on TNT, mind you. Then on Thursday, the Lakers travel to Indiana to take on the Pacers. Then on Saturday, the Lakers will close out their 5-game road trip against the New Orleans Pelicans, which I hope they're able to win that one. But if not, then so be it. But yeah, I'm not going to say the Lakers have a chance to make up more ground. But the Celtics are beatable. They're on a 3-game losing streak, but it's going to be tough to stop Jason Tatum. And when it comes to Lakers-Celtics, all bets are off. And then the Nets, despite losing to the Pistons last night, I think the Nets can still pose a threat to the Lakers. And then the Knicks, coming off that win over the Celtics and whoever they play this weekend, could pose a threat. Pacers are showing more promise this year, and the Lakers cannot forget about that buzzer beater that, I think Tyrese Halliburton had in the first meeting. And then the Pelicans, the Lakers can win that one. It's just that they're just going to have to do everything they can to just slow down all those superstars like Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, and the list goes on and on. So there are possible winnable games for the Lakers, but I'm not going to really hold my breath on them, as the Lakers are still they're only 1 game back of the final play-in spot. However, it's a distant 1 game back, as they're also behind the Trailblazers, the Thunder, and the Utah Jazz. So, and the entire play-in, and honestly, 8 through 13 is kind of close, just because, 4 through 13 is quite close, as the Pelicans are only 3 games ahead of the Lakers, believe it or not. And then I guess I should note that the Kings are 2 games ahead of the Pelicans, but this has just been one weird NBA season. It's weird when the Denver Nuggets are atop the NBA standings, and the Lakers actually have a chance to be something good. I mean, the Lakers are not good, but they're entertaining and they're fun to watch. So we'll see. But that's basically going to do it for the NBA portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick little break. When we come back, got some NHL to discuss. Then we have ourselves the Dum Dum of the Week. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Some say that Indiana is just a flyover state. Flatlands and cornfields, barns and country roads. What if I told you Indiana is the crossroads of America? What if I told you in all other states, basketball is just basketball? In Indiana, basketball is life. Crowded high school basketball gyms on a Friday night, and every barn with a basketball rim and a frayed, worn-out net. If you're interested in the heartbeat of America, and if you're interested in sports, if you have Hoosier running through your veins, the Crossroads Pod with Aaron X is made for you. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Each and every week, the Crossroad Pod covers all of Indiana sports. The pride of the horseshoe of the Indianapolis Colts. The blue-collar gold swagger of the Indiana Pacers. The relentless pursuit of the sixth banner for the Indiana Hoosiers. The swing of the hammer of the Purdue Boilermakers. The swoop of the Cardinals of Ball State. The summoning of the echoes of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The growl of the Bulldogs of Butler. The intensity of an Indiana fever. The chop of the Indianapolis Indians. At the Crossroads Pod, if it is Indiana, we've got you covered. More than cornfields. More than country back roads. The Crossroads of America. Join me, Aaron X, every week. It's nothing but net.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo Sports with a Twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and a weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me. Every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Let's Whine About DMV Sports with Mike Pat, as he is still on paternity leave, but he will be back, I want to say, on the 19th of February. That's my prediction. Yes, 19th of February. Also, check out the Crossroads Pod with Aaron X every Saturday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And definitely check out the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax. She did have some technical difficulties, but she was able to bounce back and do a show last night. She did an excellent job as always, and tough loss for those Buffalo Bills, but hey, they'll be back. They definitely have more upside than the Chargers do in the AFC, but that's actually a perfect segue to go into some NFL talk, some Chargers and Rams talk. So we'll start off with the Rams just because they had some news today, which I was actually surprised they actually had some okay news. I wouldn't say it's great news, but it's like, hey, no news is better than, some news is better than no news. So we'll start off with the Rams. They actually just hired their new offensive coordinator, which I can't believe it took them that short of a period to hire their offensive coordinator. Sooner than the Chargers, mind you. But they have hired as their new offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, which I have mixed feelings about. No, not Matt LaFleur, Mike LaFleur. So I got those two mixed up, and Mike LaFleur was the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. But now he is the new offensive coordinator for the LA Rams, which, well, when you look at it, fun fact, Sean McVay actually had Matt LaFleur as his offensive coordinator back when he was with the Rams, and now he has Mike LaFleur. So that's kind of interesting if you ask me. So that's good that is actually good on what's-their-face, the Rams. And I think that they could build off that. And I wouldn't say it's the greatest splash, but it's not terrible. I mean, obviously he was with the New York Jets last season, but it could have been a whole lot worse. They could have hired Byron Leftwich or Joe Lombardi. So I guess it's a solid hire. We're just gonna have to see how that pans out. I mean, I don't know if he has the same play style as Matt LaFleur, but honestly, they have their offensive coordinator, and they can only go from there. Now, as for the Chargers, they're still trying to figure out who their offensive coordinator is, let alone their quarterbacks coach, let alone their linebacker coach, as they have completed interviews with the following people. Luke Steckel, the tight ends coach of the Tennessee Titans, the Rams assistant/tight ends coach Thomas Brown, Vikings assistant quarterbacks coach Jared Johnson, Greg Olson, the senior offensive assistant for the Los Angeles Rams, Zach Robinson, the quarterbacks coach for the Los Angeles Rams, and There was another one that they. I guess that's it. And then Joe Brady. They also completed a interview with Joe Brady, the quarterbacks coach of the Buffalo Bills, which I think would not be bad. I would like to see him as the offensive coordinator. I mean, if he was able to groom or to help out groom Josh Allen, then I think he can have that good potential. I think he could have that good potential with the Chargers, but it's all a time will tell thing. But I'm a little concerned with how the Chargers are basically just copy-pasting the Rams. It's like they're getting so many Rams hires. I know Brandon Staley knows these people, but it's like we're not really learning anything if you're just going to copy the Rams, because everyone thought, well, copying the Rams, Brandon Staley was this defensive guru for the Rams, but you also got to remember that Aaron Donald kind of carried that LA Rams defense, as well as a few others as well. So it wasn't all thanks to Brandon Staley that the Rams had one of the best defenses. It was also the players that did their thing. I mean, the Chargers defense has been anything but elite the past few years when Staley has been head coach, or the 2 years that he's been head coach. So it's a time will tell thing, and I would not mind Joe Brady. Unfortunately, Frank Reich is off the table. I would have loved Frank Reich as offensive coordinator, but he has been hired as the Carolina Panthers coach. So it is what it is. I don't think Frank Reich would have been... I think Frank Reich would have been a long shot, just because the Chargers love to go cheap. Thanks, Dean Spanos. And honestly, I hope they do make the correct decision in terms of hiring offensive coordinator. I think Joe Brady would be the best one, but it's all a time will tell process, and we'll see what happens with the Chargers going forward. Again, they do have some good upside, and they do have some players that are on the free agent train. As I do know that what's their face, Gerald Everett is a restricted free agent, which, well, that could be interesting, because I actually like Gerald Everett, but at the same time, if the Chargers can get a better tight end, I think that would be huge right there. I think they definitely need a better tight end. And yes, the Chargers did interview the quarterback's coach of the Buffalo Bills, Joe Brady, which I think that's huge right there. I want Joe Brady. And they also interviewed defensive backs coach Jeff Howard for their linebacker position, which that's also good, just because they did fire Michael Wilhoit back following that debacle of the game, which we're not gonna discuss. So we're just gonna move on from that. We're officially done with the with that little thing right there. So yeah, it's just an all will tell game. It's just a wait and see game. And also Thomas Brown, I think I already mentioned that he's going to be in line. He's already been interviewed to be an assistant coach. But I did see somewhere that there was just a keep, franchise tag, or get rid of in terms of their free agents, in terms of like the Chargers like Instagram's accounts. But that's going to be like that's going to be like for later. That's going to be like for the near future. And again, I'm not going to go like full detail on what the Chargers need to do in order to actually, be successful, because I've already addressed some of their needs for this upcoming season. They do need a better wide receiver, a speedy wide receiver. A running back would also be good. A defensive back could also be good. Defensive end or defensive tackle, linebacker or safety. Because some of their key free agents, and here's their list, include Kyle Van Noy, Bryce Callahan, Morgan Fox, Nasir Adderley, DeAndre Carter, J.K. Scott, Jalen Guyton, Drew Tranquill, Trey Pipkins, Cameron Dicker, Donald Parham, and Braden Fehoko. So I could have sworn I thought Dustin Hopkins was going to be a free agent, but I honestly think the Chargers roll with Cameron Dicker. That's because that dude was clutch. But so is Hopkins. But unfortunately, he was too injury prone. As after that game where he had the great heroics against the Broncos, he never really kicked again for the Chargers. It was just Cameron Dicker, the kicker. But as for but they are minus $119.4 million underneath the cap, which is hideous right there, just because they made all sorts of free agent signings, such as the J.C. Jackson signing. But in terms of the free agents they could probably keep, I'd say keep Van Noy, keep Callahan, keep Fox, keep Adderley, maybe keep DeAndre Carter, just because he was a good punt returner. I think he specializes better as a punt returner. Keep J.K. Scott, keep Jalen Guyton, keep Drew Tranquill, and then keep Cameron Dicker. I'm not sure about Fehoko. Parham, if the Chargers draft tight end, then there's no need to keep Parham. And I'm not sure about Everett as well. And then Pipkins, I'm not sure, just because they need a better right tackle. Pipkins, I don't think, is going to cut it at right tackle. And once again, the biggest needs that the Chargers need are wide receiver, running back, defensive end, defensive tackle, tight end, maybe strong safety or free safety, along with Derwin James and Alohi Gilman, and linebacker. So, and their picks this year are, well, for first round, they've got the 21st pick, which, fun fact, that's LaDainian Tomlinson's number. Then second round, they've got the 54th pick. Third round, they've got the 85th pick. Fourth round, they got the 112th pick. The fifth round, they've got the 153rd pick. The sixth round, they've got the 186th pick. And then round 7, they've got the 217th pick. So they do have a full fledged of picks this year. They have all 7 picks, so they get to pick once per round. But heaven knows what they're going to do in order to try to either get more picks or maybe trade up or trade down. But I don't know if they're going to try to trade up, just because, well, the Chargers aren't really known for making big splashes. I mean, if they would have traded up, they would have done so not this last draft, but the following draft when Penei Sewell was available. But getting Rashawn Slater was big right there. But overall, I just think the Chargers have a chance for dubious immortality. And I actually watched a little bit of a video of someone saying that the Chargers are a fixable train wreck. So yes, the Chargers are a train wreck, but I think they are for sure fixable. I don't think that could have been said any better, just because the Chargers were great on paper, but this season just proved that it's so tough to win the Super Bowl, just because look at what happened with the Buffalo Bills. They lost in the divisional round to the Bengals. The Chargers lost in the wild card round. The Vikings, despite having, 13 wins, they lost in the divisional round at home to New York, or to the Giants. And yeah, it really is tough to win the Super Bowl. You have to have everything go your way, and you sometimes have to have a little bit of luck. Just my opinion. And you also have to be, your attrition has to be very healthy. Attrition has to be really good. I mean, look at what the Chiefs went through last week when Patrick Mahomes hurt his ankle. He was able to tough it out, play it out, and then basically, help the Chiefs win the game. But that's going to do it for the NFL portion of the show. Again, since the Chargers and Rams are out of the playoffs, I don't need to basically discuss any more about them. We'll get into more of their schedule. Well, their opponents are finalized, but their schedule isn't released. But I'll probably break down their opponents next week. I think that would be a fair little deal right there, just to break down their opponents next week. But over to some NHL. So, for the Kings, they're still doing good. They're 1 point behind Vegas and Seattle, which I don't think anyone had on their bingo card. As the Kings, they barely beat the Philadelphia Flyers 4-3. I did see that they were down 3-2, and I'm like, what are we doing, Kings? Fortunately, they were able to force overtime, and they were able to win in overtime. The Kings also beat the Blackhawks on Sunday 2-1 before falling to the Nashville Predators after they fell to the Nashville Predators 5-3. So tonight, the Kings are heading down to the Sunshine State to take on the Florida Panthers. Then on Saturday, the Kings will head down to Tampa Bay to take on the Lightning. Then that's it. That's actually it, because as if I'm not mistaken, after their game against the Lightning, the Kings have the NHL All-Star break, and their next game won't be until February 11th when they take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that's cool, I guess. So enjoy your little final two games while you can in terms of the first half of the season, Kings, because you're doing really good. And if you win this specific division, you will have done SoCal proud. Or California proud in general, just because everything hockey in California isn't the greatest. I'm looking at you, Ducks, which is a perfect segue to go into the Ducks. So yesterday, the Ducks pulled off this wacky, unimaginable win as the Ducks actually won 5-3. So the Ducks were actually trailing 3-2 going into the final period. And they actually were down 3-1 at one point in the second period. But then they were able to complete the comeback. They actually managed to come up with 2 goals near the midway point of the third period. And then they obviously scored the empty netter, which was awesome sauce. And, man, that's actually a pretty solid win for the Ducks, considering they've had such a rotten year. Then on Tuesday, the Ducks beat the Arizona Coyotes 5-2 in Arizona. But on Saturday, the Ducks played competitively against Buffalo, but fell to the Sabres 6-3, which is kind of expected, but they made it competitive. So on Saturday, the Ducks will remain at home at the Honda Center to take on the Arizona Coyotes. Also have to give a shout out to Larry B. He and his lovely wife Cecilia will be going to that game. They will be in attendance, which I think is awesome. So hopefully you two have some fun in that game, and hopefully you don't die out of disappointment after seeing the Ducks lose. Hopefully you will see a Ducks win. Like, I want to see a Ducks win against the Coyotes. And it looks like the All-Star Week is not going to be this week, as the Ducks play boom. So that game against the Coyotes is going to be the last game that the Ducks will play, because they've got the All-Star break, and they actually will return to action following the Coyotes game on Monday, February 6th, when they play the Dallas Stars in Dallas. Then they've got the Chicago Blackhawks the day after. Then on February 10th, they will return home to take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, yeah, the Ducks have still been very, 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 very bad. They are dead last in the Pacific Division, which, it really sucks. And they are the second worst team in the Western Conference, right ahead of Chicago. And as for worst team in the league, they are still the third worst team in the league, right ahead of Chicago and Columbus. So that is that for the Anaheim Ducks and the NHL portion of the show. That is pretty much going to do it for all of the SoCal topics. But before I go, I have to give out the Big W and the Dum Dum of the Week award. So we'll start off with the Big W award. So we'll start off with the Big W award. And I have to give a salute to this person right here. So there was a Chargers fan. I can't believe someone did this. So there was a Chargers fan that decided to go to Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City to attend the Jacksonville Jaguars Kansas City Chiefs divisional round game. Now, if I were a Chargers fan, I would not even bother with attending any more games. I would not be bothered to go to another NFL game, let alone watch another NFL game, and fully be into it, knowing that the Chargers blew a 27-0 lead. But this dude was on a mission. He was on a mission to root for the Chiefs and to seek out revenge, which I don't know I don't know where this guy got tickets. I don't know where this guy is from. I don't know how this guy was able to base it. I don't know where he got the idea of going to root for a divisional foe after your team lost in the wild card round. I don't know where he got that idea from, but I salute him. Being in a sea of red, that's quite incredible if you ask me. So, to this Chargers fan that I saw when it came to Sunday Night Football. This was actually according to Sunday Night Football. There was a Chargers fan that basically held a sign that says, I'm here for revenge, let's go Chiefs, bolt up. So, see, this Chargers fan that went to the Chiefs-Jaguars game following the Chargers' epic collapse in the wild card round the week before, you are the Big W award recipient, and I salute you, good sir. So congrats to this guy. And then I had another Big W award regarding a Chargers fan, and he actually made this, I wouldn't say this catchy song, but he actually made quite a song, quite a little ditty right there, which I feel if I play it, I'm going to get flagged down. We're going to get flagged down for copyright, which I don't want us to get in any bit of trouble. But this Chargers fan, Mike Eddy, he is on Instagram at Mike Eddy. He actually created quite the song, and I would highly recommend checking it out. I'm not going to play it just because I don't want us to get in trouble. I don't want iSports Radio to get in trouble in terms of copyright. But definitely do check out that song, and it's actually kind of catchy if you ask me. And if you're not a Chargers fan, you should probably listen to it. I guess the song is called Chargers Blues. So you, Mike Eddy, for creating this sad little Chargers blues song, I give you the Big W award. So salute to you, Mike Eddy. I actually heard the song, and I'm like, it's not half bad for being being titled Chargers Blues. So there's that right there. So salute to you, Mike Eddy. But now we have to get into the Dum Dum of the Week awards. And oh boy, the Dum Dum of the Week award, as we all know, it's basically an award that I like to give out to regarding an organization or a person or someone that does something rather dumb. And no one is safe from this award. And I could choose on who will be the Dum Dum of the Week. And I have to kind of give out the mini Dum Dum of the Week award. And this isn't anyone's fault. And I understand that sometimes kids can be kids. And kids will be kids and whatnot. But I found out on, whatchamacallit, I think it was on like Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday. So earlier in this week, I found out that Corona Santiago and Corona Centennial had a big league game in I think it's called the Big 8 League, and those two were facing one another in Big 8 League action, and it was a tight game. So it was 73-71 in favor of Santiago when I guess a fight broke out, and I was very surprised by this. It's like, you don't really see a whole lot of girls' basketball fights. Now, sometimes in basketball, you will see someone shoving one another, but honestly, I don't know what happened. I did not attend this game, first of all. I don't know what truly happened. Like, maybe someone got tangled up, maybe tempers were flaring, maybe there was trash talk, but there was a fight that broke out, and then both schools and the school district are probably going to file for disciplinary issues, and the game was actually suspended, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be a no contest or anything of that sort, but I'm not going to give Santiago and Corona Centennial girls basketball the Dum Dum of the Week. I give them the mini Dum Dum of the Week just because nothing ever really gets solved when it comes to fighting. Nothing results in positivity when it comes to fighting. You never ever wanted to have a fight because it's not good for the entirety of the sport. And you're representing both of your schools. You don't want to be known for fighting. It's just not good. And this actually ties into the second mini Dum Dum of the Week with Shannon Sharp and John Morant's dad, where the two actually were arguing, and then Steven Adams had to come on in, and he basically was involved with the hot heads. And I guess Shannon Sharp or John Morant's father said something to anger either or, but it just goes to show that fighting doesn't really solve anything. It doesn't. I understand there are some differences, and sometimes moments can get heated, but you cannot solve anything by fighting, especially if you're in high school. High school fights, that could get you suspended, and I feel there might when it comes to like fights in high school, you do get suspended for the next game. I don't know what the CIF Southern Section bylaws for that is, but nothing really gets resulted in fighting. So I understand for the kids' sake that it sometimes his tempers flared and it's a rivalry game. I don't know how big the rivalry is with Santiago and Centennial in terms of girls basketball is, but I can imagine that is probably a somewhat heated rivalry. But for the Santiago and Corona Centennial girls basketball players that were involved in the fight earlier in the week, and regarding Shannon Sharp and John Morant's dad who had the heated argument, you're the mini dum-dums of the week. Now, the reason I give Shannon Sharp and John Morant's dad the mini dum-dum of the week is because eventually cooler heads prevailed, and they eventually hugged it out, and they basically said, "Nah, I just said something, and it wasn't." They basically kissed and made up, without the kissing part. So that's why I give them the mini dum-dum of the week. They're not dum-dum of the week fully, but fighting just doesn't solve anything. Unless you really have to. But not in like a public facility where there's like at least 5,000, maybe 10,000 eyes on you. So let this be a lesson. Don't fight, skedaddle. Or just find a way to just drop the act and move on. So now we got to get into the big Dum-Dum of the Week award. The actual Dum-Dum of the Week. So here at IE Sports Radio, we are here to provide you with so much entertainment. But what if we're here to provide you with so much entertainment with our shows. What if I told you someone maybe tried to sabotage IE Sports Radio? Now, this happened on Tuesday where the neutral zone was going on and they were nearing the end of the neutral zone. And then for some reason, the neutral zone basically went bye-bye. I thought it was just a technical difficulties glitch on Adam or Zach's part, or Adam Karnick's part, because he was the one running the neutral zone. But eventually they tried to get back in, but to no avail. And then I tried to refresh the whole page, and then it said, "Sorry, the link you had was, or the link that was made was unfortunately deleted." And then I tried to type in IE Sports Radio when it came to the Spreaker search, but unfortunately it wound up basically being corrupted. So basically someone or something sabotaged IE Sports Radio. Now, I don't know if it was someone in the past that sabotaged us, or something that sabotaged us, but you can't bring down IE Sports Radio that quickly. Our man Larry B right here is a resilient man, and if you think that deleting our Spreaker account is basically going to be the end of us, think again. We were able to basically make a new IE Sports Radio account, and basically we are back to doing our thing. So for the person or glitch or virus or whatever caused the old IE Sports Radio Spreaker account to be deleted, which basically meant all of our shows were deleted for the time being, all of our monetization was gone, all of our everything was gone when it came to our platforms of our podcast being tied into whatever caused IE Sports Radio Spreaker account to be deleted. You are this week's Dum Dum of the Week Award recipient number 1.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
You can't get rid of IE Sports Radio that easily. You just can't. Now we gotta get into the second Dum Dum of the Week. Now, I had mentioned the Bills and the Bengals. So, obviously, the Bengals won that game 27-10. The defense really, really was amazing. Now, obviously, you have to tip your hat to the Bengals. They really played a great game, and honestly, quite amazing. And honestly, there were some people cracking jokes or in terms of the Bengals organization, in terms of, obviously, saying, make sure to get your refunds. They were basically telling the Bills fans to get their refunds and whatnot when it came to preparing for possibly going to the AFC Championship game in Atlanta. So obviously everyone was having fun with that, but there was one player on the Cincinnati Bengals that kind of took it too far. And oh boy, this guy is no stranger to being a dum-dum. And this player is Eli Apple. So obviously Stephon Diggs voiced his frustration when it came to being mad and whatnot. Obviously, he wants to still remain a Buffalo Bill. I imagine he wants to be a Buffalo Bill because the dude has great team chemistry with Josh Allen. But here's the thing for Eli Apple. And Eli Apple was basically covering him all game. So Eli Apple decided to be a troll and basically he quote tweeted Stephon Diggs and he said Cancun on 3 with the little heart, with the little hand heart. Let me just say that again. So Eli Apple decided to quote tweet Stephon Diggs and he said Cancun on 3 with the hand heart. So you're probably wondering, well, what's the problem with that, Teran? Well, for starters, number 3 was Damar Hamlin. Second of all, he did the little hand heart thing, which resembled Damar Hamlin. And I knew Eli Apple was trying to go after Damar Hamlin when he said Cancun on 3. Now, it's one thing to say Cancun on 3, but it's like when you... I see what he was trying to do. He was trying to... I don't know if he was intending on doing this, but he was kind of digging it toward Damar Hamlin as well. So, Eli Apple, I want to see the Bengals win a Super Bowl, but I hate Eli Apple to the biggest extent. I dislike Eli Apple. And can we all not forget that Eli Apple got cooked by Cooper Kupp in the Super Bowl last year? He should not be talking any sort of smack. Now this dude has to guard Travis Kelce or Juju Smith-Schuster, and part of me kind of wants to see Eli Apple get cooked. Obviously, as a Chargers fan, I don't want to see the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, but I just don't want to see Eli Apple win the whole thing. Like, Eli Apple is so dislikable as an NFL player. I get it. He likes talking smack. I get it. He's the Patrick Beverly of the NFL, but this dude kind of gets cooked when it comes to facing some of the better receivers, like Cooper Kupp. But for Eli Apple, obviously making that little remark against Stephon Diggs, maybe I'm being a little over dramatic, but I just think that he could have done without the whole Damar Hamlin heart hand thing. Like, I think if he had done that without the Damar Hamlin thing, or if he said something else instead of Cancun on 3, I think that would have been better. Or anything of that sort. I think that I would not have any qualms. But since he did that whole thing, I kind of have to give Eli Apple the dum-dum of the week. And it's not his first time talking smack. He just does it a whole lot. But I hope he's able to make me eat crow, but I'm sure he's going to get cooked by some of those Chiefs players, especially if Patrick Mahomes does manage to get progressively better with his ankle. But for Eli Apple and all of his smack talking following the game and his little dig toward the Bills and Damar Hamlin, you're kind of this week's Dum Dum of the Week award recipient numero dos.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all she wrote. Larry B says that it's a great time to be a Bill. I definitely agree. Like I said earlier, I think the Bills have more upside, have some good upside. It's just all about keeping their players and you possibly hitting the bullseye when it comes to free agency and the draft, and basically bolstering their O-line. But I think the Bills will still be good from now until heaven knows what happens with Josh Allen. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for me to get on out of here, because we got another show coming up, and I got a banquet to attend to. You dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen in the wee hours of the morning, I appreciate you. If you listen late at night, I appreciate you. If you listen to this with a goat, if you listen to this on a boat, I appreciate you. If you listen to this on a train, if you listen to this in the rain, I appreciate you. If you listen to this anytime, anyplace, anywhere, I really do appreciate you. Shout out to the chat room, Davidson, Chris, and Larry B. Popping in the chat room. Also have to give the big W award to Larry B. for being resilient. Some CEOs of certain companies would have probably just folded, But Larry B, after iSports Radio Spreaker got taken down, he was able to just make another one, and poof, we are back, baby! So for everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the weekend. I will see you all Monday for Set Point. I most likely will be back next week in SoCal, but until then, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the AFC and NFC championships, and I'll see you Monday for Set Point. Have a great weekend, and remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!